Thank you for joining IAB There. And now your host, Orchid Richardson. Over to you, Orchid.
Good afternoon. Today is Friday, July 17th, 2020, and welcome to IAB There, our daily live stream in which we connect the digital advertising ecosystem. I'm Orchid Richardson, VP of Membership for the IAB Tech Lab, where I also lead IAB's Programmatic and Data Center. So our topic for today's show, identity, privacy, and contextual in a rapidly changing marketplace. Our special guest is Vaibhav Arya, CEO of Media.net. Media.net is a technology platform provider to publishers, marketers, and other ad tech industry participants. As the founding CTO, Ari built a 600-plus engineering team from the ground up and was instrumental in creating the core of the contextual engine and the natural language processing tech that powers it. An internet entrepreneur since early 2000s, he has created multiple startups and products in the space. He's been a visiting professor at the India School of Business and has a bachelor's degree from the University of Pennsylvania. Please welcome Ari.
Hi, Orchid. Hi, IAB. Thanks for having me today.
How are you?
I'm great.
Oh, awesome. So why don't we jump right into it, and let's start with hearing a little bit more about Media.net. Can you just give us a quick, the elevator pitch for Media.net?
Sure. So Media.net, at Media.net, we are a contextual first technology. And what we did is we built multiple businesses using our core contextual engine as the centerpiece. For example, we built what we call the Exchange Marketplace, which provides 100% direct publisher supply, enriched using our contextual article sentiment, contextual segments, granular topic, and brand safety data. We also offer an exclusive CPC demand source that is contextually targeted using our proprietary technology that generates significant revenues without relying on cookies whatsoever. And have also started recently offering our contextual data to third parties, such as publishers, marketers, etc., that want to use it. We call ourselves contextual first, but that's because at the end of the day, in our history, we've transacted more than $2 billion of contextually targeted demand on the platform. And this is fully contextual, identity, privacy safe, identity independent demand. And that's really the core of the company. And as a company, we are a fairly large global footprint. We have 1,200 employees across the US, Europe, Asia, and more than half of them in product, engineering, and data science. And just because of having that strength and having the people, it gives us the time to spend a lot of time doing R&D on contextual. And that's why we keep doing R&D and innovating new products around it.
Interesting. Now, is the contextual... I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Now, is the contextual just looking at content within pages, or is it giving you insight to other things that are going on in the marketplace?
So, the way we built it is our all targeting engines take a ton of signals. But according to us, the signal that's the strongest is what the user is doing right now, which is literally the page that he is reading. But just the page that he is reading is very, very rich. And you can impute a lot of information about the user right off the page. For example, our engine has 5 million topics in it, right? So we don't really just look at high level, this page is talking about, take an example, if somebody is reading a page about sleeping positions for back pain. Now that's typically going to get classified as medical, or it's going to get classified as lifestyle. But our technology and our engine goes deeper and says, this is great from a mattress perspective. So we can take that and map it to mattresses. Taking that forward, if somebody is reading restaurant reviews in Vail, our system takes that forward and maps it back to a ski enthusiast category. So we can deliver ski enthusiast targeted campaigns while it's only somebody talking about restaurant reviews in Vail, right? And because we've done so much, we've dog fooded our engine, run so much performance oriented demand on it, the engine is corely performance oriented. So it automatically picks up performance oriented topics, which works both for performance and brand demand because it actually gets engagement and conversion for all the advertiser rather than just high level topics, right? And that's really the advantage of going beyond just top level categories. The IAB has its, for example, taxonomy, but not just limiting ourselves to
Right.
that, but looking at 5 million independent items on the page. And we do this because we page that the user is looking at. We know what the user is interested in right now. So internally, we throw around the term real-time contextual because it's like this is what his real-time intent is, and it's not something that he was interested in 5 months ago, 1 hour ago, 5 days ago. It's what they want now, and that tends to be the strongest signal by far.
Right. So it would seem that because it's real time contextual and you know what the user is doing right then, that there may be some privacy or identity concerns. Is that an issue here or not at all?
So the privacy and identity concerns would become very important and valid if we were to keep that and map it across the user's journey so we could identify this user as somebody who's got a particular interest. But we don't do that. We look at, because the goal is to monetize that impression or to deliver advertiser marketer campaigns to a particular impression, we only care about what's happening on that impression. And all the content, all the intent that's required to target that impression is on the content around it, right? So the
Right.
URL itself gives us all the data that you need, and it's not unique, and it's not and you're not building user data profiles based on it. So there are very few privacy or uh, identity concerns there.
Yeah, it seems like it's a
So
great solution for marketers when they're trying to figure out how to expand their campaigns, create more reach. Is that something that you're seeing that marketers are coming to you for, or even as an
correct. So
alternative
it's
to our?
correct. So as identity becomes harder, right, and it is already harder on mobile, on Safari, and in these environments where identity is harder, our performance or our value to marketers keeps improving, right? So main USP to marketers is they don't you don't with our system you don't have to only target the concept, right? But you can add what we can do is build specific segments, add remove specific granular topics, add page and brand sentiment filters, and then custom build a segment. For example, if Toyota wants to target cars, they want to target mid-segment cars and typically not luxury cars. So you can build that
Right,
segment, which will target mid-segment cars, and then on top of that, layer like a brand segment filter, a brand sentiment filter, and then forecast it, price it, and target it so that they can put it into a marketing plan and then go in and deliver it at scale across the large web. And that becomes really valuable.
right. I'm interested to see what you guys are seeing in terms of COVID and how that's showing up in the contextual activity that's happening across the network. I know that's one thing that everybody's talking about right now,
So
right?
correct. Keyword blocking is become, it's the hot topic of the day, and it is
Right.
making a big difference to everybody in this space, right? So we've been looking at this, and we've been looking at it a layer deeper than just high level saying, oh, this is COVID content. Because obviously, as COVID started in early COVID times, literally mid March and early April, we found that, although traffic for everybody was growing, a lot more people were using the internet and a lot more people were going to publisher sites, but the yields were not growing as fast. So we started deep diving for all our partners, publisher partners, and we started seeing that, and some of the data that we found was, although the overall volume was growing 10% week on week, just COVID related impressions or only COVID keyword blocked impressions were growing 100%, 200% week on week. And it's
Oh,
understandable
wow.
because everybody originally was just talking about COVID traffic, right? Or just talking about what's happening with COVID. But it was not only related to the traditional news and politics categories. This expanded beyond that. In fact, we found that only 28% of the impressions really were not brand safe or were tragedy and disturbing. But 72% were extremely brand positive impressions that were yet getting labeled COVID. For example, it was about tips for parents with children at home, or
Right.
what to binge watch on Netflix during the quarantine, even cooking recipes for a date night, right?
Right.
And all of us have been there. Like you've been there, I've been there. All of us have been
Absolutely.
looking for things to do, and that's what the content was. But because all the content had like a COVID spin to it, just taking a sledgehammer of keyword blocking was really affecting publishers because all of this content was just getting blocked out, saying because it has the term COVID or coronavirus or something in it, right? It's only
Right.
once you start going beyond that, beyond just the keywords, but going to actual concepts, actual topics, actual granularity, can you start identifying what is good for marketers and brand positive for marketers, as opposed
Right.
to just tragic and disturbing, right? And this was early COVID. But as we see, now what's happening is COVID content, COVID related impressions are not growing as much, partially because marketers have figured out how to deal with it to some extent. And also because, the volume's in so large already that the volume is plateauing. So it's not that COVID related impressions have gone down, it's just the volume's high, but not growing.
Right.
And
Right.
yet, 73% of those are yet brand safe. And so the ratio remains constant. And it's all traditional categories which would be great for brands and advertisers. But as COVID's going away, or marketers are learning how to deal with COVID, the world doesn't stay still. Our political economy keeps changing, and the content spin now has become, social justice topics have become significant with Black Lives Matters, racism, reform. And these are topics that are not just limited to news and politics. Traditionally, endemic categories like sports, technology, business, education, all of these are getting affected. And you marketers really need to go down one level deeper than just the headline to be able to figure out whether this is content that they want to access or not. And we're working with marketers. For some marketers, it's a great opportunity because it
Right.
enables them to buy inventory that others are possibly ignoring or missing. And for other marketers, they need to reach their target audiences in brand positive ways, and we need to be able to enable that. So we're constantly working with marketers to help them get that. And that's what we're seeing in COVID. It's until we start getting into, as an industry generally, we start getting into a deeper understanding. It becomes harder and harder as, given the rapid state of change in the world, it becomes harder and harder for marketers to deliver their campaigns to who they want, and for publishers to get adequate monetization on the high volume of content that they create.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you make that point, because I know as a mom who was in quarantine for such a long time, I was certainly searching for COVID comfort recipes, right, to make my experience better.
Yeah,
And if a CPG had inserted into something that I was reading at that moment, I'm sure it would have triggered me adding something to my in-home delivery shopping cart.
correct. Like,
Which brings up
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Which brings up an
Yeah.
interesting point is, how can publishers leverage this contextual platform to make it much more powerful for the marketers that they're working for, because that's probably part of the missing piece, right? We've convinced marketers they need to go
Correct.
a level deeper, but how are we going to help publishers do the same thing?
So what we do with publishers, right? We license our data, and then publishers can actually build these custom segments for their advertisers, not only for programmatic for their targeted deals and PMPs, but also for their direct ad campaigns, right? They can
Okay.
use this to help package and price their inventory. And what that does is it helps them get a better sense of what inventory do they have and map it better to the demand that they are seeing. And this is for direct, but they can also make these granular segment IDs available on open exchange that can be targeted. Um, and
Right.
that's really the best opportunity. And further beyond just looking at pricing and performance, just on the state side of the business, but also on the church side of the business, it can help the product and editorial process to understand user engagement and what type of content is resonating with their users.
Yeah. Do you see a lift or a change in content strategy as publishers leverage more contextual targeting as they're growing their businesses?
So I think, as an industry, all of us are in a midst of a lot of change. And
Mm-hmm.
as the industry changes and we get into a model where privacy becomes more important and identity becomes harder, I think what is going to happen is large conglomerates and high value publishers will start automatically getting a larger part of the ad dollars or the advertiser pie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, you know, if you think of a lot of the clickbait or the the really low quality content that today gets monetized, without being able to identify the user or without having an identity layer, that content will be much harder to monetize. But large publishers would who have direct relationships with their users will have a lot of first party data, and also high quality publishers who create content in very valuable verticals will always be able to command a higher price for their content, just because the intent of the user can be imputed from the content.
Got it. So that brings up an interesting point in terms of how the marketplace is going to change over time. I think I read a quote from you in the early part of 2020, Things Have Changed, where you talked about how Google's announcement around Chrome and changing how the cookie will be used is a great opportunity for contextual. Do you want to talk a little bit about just the future roadmap in terms of the way you see contextual evolving, what's MediaNet's point of view on that?
Sure. So there are two layers to it. One is, what do we see happening in the industry in general? The
Mm-hmm.
cookie going away and identity generally becoming harder. You really try to do three things with user identity. You try to target advertising to users. You try to optimize advertising, because we obviously want to spend more dollars behind advertising that works. And
Mm-hmm.
we want to measure advertising, right? I think
Right.
contextual is going to be great for targeting, and it'll help, for all the points that we discussed earlier. It's great for high value and large publishers who've got direct user relationships, and that's going to be great for targeting. And if you look at a system like ours, has traditionally been, which is run at scale, which has delivered a large volume of performance demand, it is endemically performance oriented. So given two pages, both talking about the same topic at length, we would automatically end up picking the one that is more performance oriented, just because the content will be more performance oriented. For example, if somebody was, if you're, again, going back to the mattress advertiser example, if a mattress advertiser is looking for advertising, our system would preferentially target product review pages. as opposed to architecture pages or home tours where somebody is tangentially mentioning that they have a fancy mattress, right? So
Mhm.
targeting and optimization is easier. Measurement is the hard one, right?
Right.
Because think about the measurement challenge. In the take the offline world example, if every car manufacturer was only to do last click attribution, which is essentially attribute all the value to the end that sells the car to to the user, then they would literally be attributing zero value to their entire TV ad campaigns. And that both of us
Right.
understand is not rational or not reasonable,
Right.
right? And measurement is the big challenge with identity going away. And until we can solve for measurement, and thanks to the tech lab, you guys, we're doing a great job at the tech lab working on Project Rearc with, and the entire W3C conversation that's going on. All of us are actively, as an industry, as a community, trying to figure out how to solve for this. And it's very important that we do. And everybody is incentivized to solve for it, right? In a way that is fully user privacy supporting. We don't want to exfiltrate data or build aggressive user profiles. All we want to know is, if you saw the ad, did that result in conversions? And, you know, and Media.net's obviously been a great IAB Tech Lab supporter. We just got on the board
Yeah.
to, further double down on our commitment. So I think the industry will come up with measurement solutions. Contextual is great for targeting and optimization. And all of this put together, I think that the world continues and we figure out how to work in the new space. Obviously, it's a space where users are going to be a lot more comfortable because despite everything we believe as the industry, users currently, just because of hearing about privacy risks and issues, are worried, are feeling unsafe, and are aggressively trying to protect as much of their privacy possible. So you want to do it in a way that the users feel comfortable, and I think the industry will do a great job. From a pure media.net perspective, we think it's going to be, we continue to double down on our main core platform. Obviously does English very well. Our performance advertising platform, our CPC ads, work in multiple languages. So we are bringing that multilingual capability to our contextual data. So we'll start with the European languages, German, French, Spanish, and then expand from there. Expand from there. I think we will expand, we'll have that towards the end of the year. And then there's another very interesting project that we have in the works is expanding this to go beyond just text content, but also to video and audio content, right? So video, the easiest thing to do for video is to use closed caption data, and that's available. But even for
Right.
videos where closed caption data is not available, we are working on an alpha internally, which does speech to text and then uses that data as the basis for doing contextual. So then you can do contextual, which is also to a point in the video and makes that super valuable as an advertising identifier.
Wow. Are you guys doing anything with facial recognition yet in terms of the video content?
No, so
Or is
that
that
we are
for
actually
TI?
so facial recognition. So we always want, traditionally we've always been extremely privacy safe and extremely in the camp that we don't want to do anything which actually tracks users. So,
Right.
we've stayed far away from facial recognition. I think product recognition in video is possible, but what we found is that the audio track is often very valuable and gives you as much, if not more, data than just looking at the images.
Yeah, got you. Interesting. Well, we have only about 30 seconds left before we have to wrap up. So, is there any parting thoughts that you would like to leave us with?
No, I think it's a time for great change in the industry, and all of us are working together trying to figure out how to build solutions for the open web of publishers and continue to work on the process to figure out what's the way forward. And we look forward to working with the IAB, with the Tech Lab, to literally work on making the internet a better place.
Yeah, we're excited that Medias.net is such a great partner for us, and has joined the Tech Lab board. So I'm excited about what's to come in the coming 18 months as we figure out the solution beyond the cookie. And so with that, I want to say thank you for joining us today. And just a couple of quick things to remind everyone about is that did you know that IAB There is now also a podcast? You can listen to our whole archive wherever you get your podcasts. And it's not just IAB There. On Tuesdays, our IAB Policy podcast features experts discussing the legal and regulatory developments changing the industry. On Wednesdays, IAB There's leaders discuss what's urgent in digital advertising on IAB Real. So please go to iab.com/podcast to get everything you need. On next week's IAB There, we're excited to welcome to the show Matt Barish, SVP Strategy and Business Development for Adcodlinly, David Olsvich, Executive Director, IBM Watson Advertising, Amanda Richmond, CEO US Wavemaker, and others. So please don't miss it. IAB There is a production of the Internet Advertising Bureau. Our show today was produced by Connor Healy, Joe Ants, John Ward, Tofika Mohinden. I am Orchid Richardson. Thank you for watching. And come back next week, because if it's 2 p.m. Eastern on a weekday, you know it's time for IAB There.